It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, no, stop arguing. I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment. I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different.
Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
It's the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh my goodness me.
And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
And right across the United Kingdom.
You can find us on Sky Channel 512,
Virgin Media Channel 604,
Freesat Channel 216,
Freeview Channel 236,
And YouView, Channel 236.
You can also take us with you on DAB+ radio.
With the GB News app and at the website gbnews.uk.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
He's the king of breakfast TV, and he's back.
Eamon Holmes back on the TV with me this morning.
Even remember my name.
I know, it's been 4 months. Do you have holy water by your bed?
Oh yes, already to bless.
Oh, Eamon. Oh.
Why do you not believe anything I say?
Eamon Holmes back on GB News Breakfast at 6 a.m.
Hello, I'm Esther McVeigh.
And I'm Philip Davis.
Whether you're watching or listening on TV, online or on radio, we handpick the latest stories, debates and expert opinions for your weekend. So whether that's politics, news or showbiz, we've got it covered.
Join us every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock on GB News.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
Why not take us home with you by visiting the GB News shop at gbnews.store. You'll find all the official merchandise, a really good present actually for yourself, your friends or your family.
We ship across the UK mainland at no extra cost. GB News, the People's Channel.
No spin, no bias, no censorship. I'm Dan Wootton. Tonight, make no mistake, a post-Boris Brexit betrayal is afoot, just like I warned you. Destroying Brexit. It's not going to be long before Ramona and Chief Keir Starmer marches us back into the EU. I'll resound the alarm on Fishy Rishi and explain why the covert Ramona is finished if he fails to stare down the EU over Northern Ireland. That's in a special digest next. Then my superstar panel weigh in. Joining me tonight, Amanda Patel, Matt Letizia and Rebecca Reid. Then I'll be joined by Baroness Kate Hoey, who too has a stark warning for the government. If Brussels bulldozes our Brexit deal, the Tories are toast. She's live with me at 9:50. Also coming up on the show tonight, Nicola Bulley's heartbroken sister has shared this poignant tribute to the tragic mother of two, but unanswered questions remain about the shambolic Lancashire police investigation. So tonight, I'm asking, has this case made you lose faith in the police? Petronella Wyatt, Henry Bolton and Patsy Stevenson, whose own confrontation with the Met during a Sarah Everard vigil sent shockwaves across the country, are going to debate that in the clash at 9:20. The woman tipped to replace scheming Sturgeon has already been written off by the perennially out-of-touch MSM and Westminster elite after she displayed this refreshing honesty.
Being between a man and a woman, that is what I practice. But I will not roll back on any rights that already exist in Scotland.
But with a strong socially conservative current running through the SNP, is Kate Forbes really finished? And should her moral position based on religious beliefs really stop her becoming First Minister? That's our big debate in the media buzz at 10. Elsewhere, it's safe to say the Sussexes have thrown their fair share of shade, but Meghan is reportedly upset and overwhelmed. She's overwhelmed by her South Park roasting.
Instagram-loving wife actually doesn't want her privacy. How dare you, sir? My Instagram-loving wife has always wanted her privacy.
I have to say, it never stops being funny, but with Meghan also said to be, quote, obsessed with the court battle she's fighting with her estranged sister, Samantha Markle. Does she deserve the scorn from Hollywood liberal circles she's now receiving? Well, Samantha is going to speak out live in an exclusive interview at 10:20. Plus, esteemed royal biographer Tom Bauer joins me live in the studio as he offers the latest insight on the disgraced Dukes Harry and Andrew. Is it time the King puts the disruptive duo in their place? Tom's take at 10:40. And as concerned parents and Merseyside again protest against migrant hotels but are unfairly branded as far-right bigots, why are the left so determined to shut down the immigration debate? Nigel Farage gives his unfiltered opinion on this at 9:35. We'll have a first look at tomorrow's newspaper front pages too, as well as the new Greatest Britain and Union Jackass named This is Dan Wootton Tonight. Let's go. My special digest on why spineless Sunak's inability to protect Brexit will see him axed for Boris, coming up right after the news with Polly Middlehurst.
Dan, thank you. Good evening. The top story on GB News tonight. The United States president says the country will announce new sanctions against Russia this week. President Biden was speaking to thousands who gathered in the centre of Warsaw today, telling the crowds the Ukrainian people's love of their country will prevail in the war against Russia. And that followed talks he held this afternoon with the president of Poland, a day after his surprise visit to Ukraine. Well, today the two leaders addressed security issues and growing NATO's presence in Poland.
The West was not plotting to attack Russia, as Putin said today. And millions of Russian citizens who only want to live in peace with their neighbors are not the enemy. This war is never a necessity. It's a tragedy.
Well, Russia has issued a warning to the West by suspending its participation in its nuclear arms treaty with the United States. Vladimir Putin made the announcement during a major speech on the war in Ukraine, where he also accused the West of trying to acquire limitless power.
Russia does not abandon the treaty, but suspends its participation. Before resuming the discussion of this treaty, we must first understand what do such countries of NATO, like France and Great Britain, aspire to do, and how will we take their strategic arsenals into account.
Well, here at home, government departments have recommended that NHS workers, police officers and teachers all get a pay rise of 3.5% in new submissions to the independent pay review body, well below the average pay demand of around 10%. And that, as nurses announced a pause on next week's planned strike action, saying they've entered intensive talks on pay with the government. The Royal College of Nursing talks with the Health Secretary, Steve Barclay, will start tomorrow. Nurses were set to walk out on March the 1st for 48 hours in their long-running dispute over pay, jobs and conditions. And the Chancellor is under pressure to improve public sector pay rises for workers after official figures showed today state finances are stronger than was predicted. The Office for National Statistics revealed the government reported a monthly surplus of £5.4 billion in January. The surprising number is mainly because of self-assessment tax income. But Jeremy Hunt, who's due to set out plans for tax and spending in the budget on March the 15th, played down the significance of the surplus to the national finances. Now, the Princess of Wales visited a care home for elderly people in Berkshire today, and as it's Pancake Day, Kate picked up some batter, a spatula and a frying pan to flip up some culinary treats. However, the Princess had to admit she didn't have much of a flair for it. She even said her children might boycott her pancakes after seeing her attempt, which she called a congealed blob. You're up to date on TV, online and DAB+ radio. This is GB News. More now from Dan Wootton tonight.
Should we trust Rishi Sunak not to sell out Northern Ireland? And actually, can we even trust Brexit to be secure and strong under this globalist regime? Sadly, the answer increasingly appears to be hell no. I always warned the anti-democratic coup against Brexiteer Boris Johnson was part of a plot to undermine Brexit and tie us closer to the European Union forevermore. Asking you tonight is to not forget what the unrelenting assault on Boris Johnson from the MSM and the political establishment all these months has been about. It's been about destroying Brexit. If we're not careful and allow this madness to continue, it's not going to be long before Ramona and Chief Keir Starmer marches us back into the EU. Of course, the MSM is also part of the plot to undermine democracy. Why the hell do you think they went so hard to depose Boris from office over the most minor of indiscretions? Rather than use our Brexit freedoms to see us thrive across the world, this anti-democratic, globalist regime, who the masses haven't voted for, led by fishy Rishi Sunak, wants to see us handcuffed to the bloc and actually block the biggest democratic mandate in British history. Well, sadly, those predictions tonight appear to be coming true, with Sunak and Tory wets encouraging the European Research Group and DUP to accept a watered-down compromise over the Northern Ireland Protocol that does not guarantee sovereignty by still allowing a role for European judges. They must not. It's simply not acceptable to those of us who believe in the opportunities provided by a real Brexit. And Sunak is now in a perilous position politically, with his high-profile Brexiteer Home Secretary Suella Braverman said to be on resignation watch after issuing only tepid support earlier this week.
Aware for some time now of challenges relating to trade, customs and sovereignty when it comes to Northern Ireland and the Northern Irish Protocol. And the legislation that the government introduced is one of the biggest tools that we have in solving the problem on the Irish Sea.
The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. But as Jacob Rees-Mogg pointed out, Sunak seems to be following failed Theresa May's Brexit playbook.
You know why so much political capital has been spent on something without getting the DUP and the ERG on side first. It's quite surprising because this is very...
I actually think Sunak has a political death wish. Despite voting for Brexit, he's making it clear he doesn't give a damn about morphing into a Brexit in name only wet once he's actually in power, especially now that he's been advised by William Hague and his Chancellor High-Tax Jeremy Hunt, who is shamelessly lobbying behind the scenes for Swiss-style alignment, having previously plumped for a second referendum. That, coupled with the fact his government has virtually blown virtually every advantage Brexit could provide us by hiking taxes to record 70-year high with no end, by the way, no end to the financial torture in sight, not even at the budget next month. So unless Sunak holds firm and stares down the EU over Northern Ireland, I believe he's finished. And it's only a matter of time until Boris Johnson returns to number 10 to finish the job he started. I hope I'm proven wrong. But Sunak looks like he cannot be trusted on Brexit. To respond now, my superstar panel, top Daily Mail columnist Amanda Patel, England football legend and social commentator Matt Letizia, and the author and journalist Rebecca Reed. Amanda Patel, I can't believe we're sitting here saying this in 2023, but it looks like another big Brexit sellout by Sunak is on the way.
Dan, I can't believe you told a fib at the very start of the show, where you said just then, I hope it's not true, but I hope Rishi's out and Boris is staying in. You did not believe that.
Well, no, I'd rather Sunak actually was a loyal Brexiteer.
Sunak doesn't have a Brexit bone in his body. And look, I've never spoken ill of William Hague, and I don't intend to start now.
Because you
my former boss. But...
that's a big but there, coming.
But if William Hague's backing you on your Northern Ireland proposals, then you know it's a Eurosceptic, it's a Europhile sellout. I'm sorry, William. That's the only thing I'm ever going to say. Except you need a lot of powder on your bald head when we did shows together. I don't know. What's going wrong with me? I've gone mad. OK, let's be really serious here. Rishi is not a Brexiteer. He never was. He's using this, the Northern Ireland deal to try and open up the doors to Europe. Let's do it in simple people's, for me, the language I understand. He's trying to do a deal with the EU. He's trying to break the Brexit covenant. And what is so beautiful at the moment is that instead of when Rishi was trying to get rid of Boris and was circling him, and let's not forget, he caused Boris's downfall by resigning. Now you've got Suella Braverman, God, I love that woman, circling him like a great white shark. You know, occasionally doing a little, I'm here, you hear the music, do-do, 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 do-do. And she's representing a large number of Conservatives now. I think you're right, Dan, even though you think you really regret it. I don't think Sooni will be in Sooni. I'm thinking of Son, the Spurs player. God, I don't think Rishi is going to be in power. He's going to fall on this because his instincts are all pro-European.
I mean, Matt Letizia, it's astonishing, isn't it? It's astonishing. A deal that effectively sells out Northern Ireland. It's completely unacceptable to Brexiteers.
It certainly is, and Rishi has to decide if he is the Prime Minister of the whole of the United Kingdom or if he's just serving a small interest of the United Kingdom. And for me, I think you're right. I don't think he can be trusted on this. I think he is a globalist, quite frankly.
A sellout is coming.
And a sellout, I believe, I'm with you, I think a sellout is coming.
But Rebecca Reid, there are massive implications for Sunak doing this. If he thinks his party, and the ERG are just going to go back into their box, I think he's got another thing coming.
If there is another Tory Prime Minister before the next election, I honestly am going to lose my mind. This is like the end.
We'll just be the Prime Minister who was voted.
Exactly, Rebecca. It won't be a new one. It'll just be an old one.
Do you know what? This is like when a reality TV show loses its way and they're like, let's bring in some twins, let's do it in the dark, let's make everybody do it with their hands tied behind their back.
TV. This is our future.
It is so frustrating. I'm so sick.
Are you worried about the sovereignty of Northern Ireland?
No, not at all. I don't even really
care about
I don't understand what it means. Like most of the people in this country, I fully don't understand. Honestly, the number of people in this country who understand what any of this legislation means is tiny, and I am not one of them.
Do you think the people in Northern Ireland who obviously voted for Brexit deserve to have their fate controlled by European judges?
Presumably, like the rest of the country, about half of them voted for Brexit and about half of them didn't. And also, but
we respect democracy.
And all of our lives have moved on since then. I was like a 24-year-old. I was drunk all the time. I'm now like a 31-year-old mother. I just want to stop talking about Brexit more than I want anything else in the world, apart from a couple of things.
But we can't stop talking about Brexit because this is our future.
It's so slow and boring, and most people don't understand it's a dry economic concept which isn't really.
No, it's not. It's not dry because ultimately we've got
sovereignty.
A prime minister.
Most important.
A prime minister
political concept.
It's does like not the least believe important in thing. What was voted for. He does not believe in our sovereignty. He does not believe in us being a contained unity and not a slave to Europe. That is really important.
But it'll be really fun when he loses the next election and then we get to have a fresh start and a bit of a change and not the same awful people on like an iPod
No, we'll
shuffle.
just have the same awful people who actually want to take us back into the European Union. Problem is, they just lie about it.
I mean, if we could stop talking about it, that would be fine.
He's already said that he wants to renegotiate our trade deals with Europe.
Well, it hasn't gone well not being in it, has it, realistically? I mean, again, this is not my area. Economics is not my main thing. But sure, do you guys feel like Brexit's gone well? Are we loving life?
I think it's
have we ever had have we had a chance to judge, I think would be the...
It's been quite a long time.
If we had a Brexiteer at number 10, we could get it done.
Yeah. It's impossible to judge. I mean, number one, we locked down our economy unnecessarily for over 2 years. Number two, we then raised the tax burden to the highest it is since World War II, which means that so many of the advantages that we could have taken through our independence have been chucked out of the window. Well, for example, taxes. You know, all of a sudden, there's loads of taxes
weren't
that
set
could
by
be
being
lowered.
If Rishi Sunak, as Chancellor, had not spent billions and billions on encouraging a work-from-home culture with his ridiculous payouts, which were way over the mark.
Well, we're going to shout at each other about work from home later, I think.
No, we're not.
Oh, no, sorry.
We're not doing that anymore.
We'll do it another week.
Well, look, I just think this is going to be a seismic week, but yet again, I feel like Sunak doesn't give a damn about democracy.
None of them give
He
a damn about
doesn't give
anything.
a damn about his party grassroots.
None of them care about anything other than themselves and their careers. Sorry,
That is not
that is a
true.
boring, uninventive thing to say, but it is
so
fundamentally
not.
true. They are all out to show off.
I think at the lower level, I think there are some politicians.
Maybe some of the MPs.
But I think when you get to that top level, when you get to the minister, then I think you're absolutely spot on.
Not true. Suella Braverman.
No,
There are loads
she's
from
an
David
attention
Davis,
seeker who no
Ian
one liked
Duncan
at school
Smith.
who's showing
There are
off.
loads of really senior people and lots of junior people in the party who really care about Brexit.
Indeed.
And don't diss Suella Braverman.
Suella Braverman's a loser and I hate her.
Is a what?
She's a loser and I hate her.
Oh.
She's mean.
You can't say you
She
hate
said William
anyone.
Hague needs to powder his head. I am not the meanest person on this sofa.
I'm feeling like the nicest person on this sofa.
Yeah, you
right?
definitely are, Matt.
Amanda Patel, my superstar paddler, now with me all the time. It's going to be fun. Still to come. Amid fresh protests against migrant hotels, with more concerned locals unfairly branded far-right bigots. Why are the left so determined to shut down the immigration debate altogether? Nigel Farage on this at 9:35. But up next, in the clash, as Nicola Bulley's family mourns the tragic mother of two, unanswered questions remain for the police. So tonight, I want to ask this. Has the case made you lose faith in our forces? Joining me to debate it, Petra Nullawide, Henry Bolton and Patsy Stevenson. They'll be here right after the break. But actually, I want to know what you think on this. That's most important to me. Email me, Dan at gbnews.uk. Tweet me at gbnews. Our poll running there too.
First and foremost, I am a GB News fan, and I was before I was working here. Just love the fact that we're asking the questions that a lot of establishment media won't ask.
With a bit of a twist, we not only want to inform you, but we want to keep you entertained.
It's worth the drive because you get in and the team's all ready and waiting, they're itching to go, and it's a proper little family.
GB News is the People's Channel.
It's the audience that makes the programme sing.
We're giving our viewers and our listeners a voice. I see the thousands of your letters, tweets, emails, you name it, coming in.
Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it?
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent you.
It's time for something different. It's time for GB News. I'm very patriotic. I believe in Britain. Our best days lie ahead.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Join us here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my two comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Here on GB News Live, we'll be keeping you in the picture, finding out what's happening across the country and finding out why it matters to you. We'll have the facts fast with our team of reporters and specialist correspondents. Wherever it's happening, we'll be there from 12 noon on TV, radio and online. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michael Portillo. Join me on GB News on a Sunday morning for topical discussion, debate, arts and culture, and sometimes even ethical dilemmas.
I don't always agree with you, Michael.
Michael Portillo, Sundays on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
You're an inspiration to us all.
Clip that bit off.
Well, you are.
That's my ringtone. My political ambitions those days are gone, I can tell you. She's only teasing. Go on. He's probably going to want to lay down now. I'll give him 2 minutes to have one. Let's respectfully disagree. That's what we like on Jubes and Kerr. Come and join us. GB News, the People's Channel.
Michelle Dewberry, weekday evenings at 6 o'clock.
I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m.
What's the scoop?
I'll be joined by two of the country's top comedians.
That's right.
As we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight.
We're going to get into trouble.
If it's a big story, we'll be covering it.
Spill some tea on him.
There we go.
But we'll also have some fun.
I wouldn't stick up a bank.
My father didn't love me.
So anyway.
Headliners every night from 11 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akue, Saturday and Sunday afternoons on GB News. Expect fiery debate and passionate discussion as me and my panel tackle some of the biggest topics hitting the headlines. It's a place for everyone's opinion. No one gets cancelled, but no one gets an easy ride.
Oh, she's on it today!
Be ready for conversations that are fierce, frank, and of course, fun every Saturday and Sunday afternoon from 4 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel.
Time now for The Clash. And after the devastating discovery of Nicola Bulley's body yesterday, her sister Louise Cunningham has paid tribute to the mother of two, posting a yellow heart on social media while urging people to spread the love for Nikki. In a statement released yesterday, the family said, "We love you, always have, and always will. We'll take it from here." But regrettably, the memory of Nicola has been sullied, I believe, by the Lancashire Police's disgusting disclosure of her problems with alcohol and the menopause, revealed just hours after Detective Superintendent Rebecca Smith said she wouldn't invade Nicola's privacy. So rather than finding the missing mum, I think the police, near the end of the investigation, only cared about covering their own backside following a whole host of criticisms about the way they dealt with the case. This prompted Petronella Wyatt to write in the Daily Telegraph that the police have lost the faith of the middle classes and ruined their public image forever. What do you think? Do you feel the way that the Lancashire Police has dealt with the Nicola Bulley case has made you lose the faith in our forces altogether? Let me know your thoughts by emailing dan@gbnews.uk. You can vote in our poll at GB News. The results coming up shortly, but first, I'm joined by the writer of that aforementioned column, Petronella Wyatt, former leader of UKIP, Henry Bolton. He's, of course, a law and order activist, and the women's rights campaigner, Patsy Stevenson, who was famously arrested at Sarah Everard's vigil in 2021, prompting a whole host of criticism of the police there. So Petronella Wyatt, I mean, this was a very powerful column today, but it's quite a significant thing to say that the middle classes have lost the faith in all police in the UK based on one case. But do you feel that this has been coming a long time?
Yes, I do. It's not one case. I can give you examples of several cases, but let's go back to Sarah Everard. The way that the women who attended a peaceful vigil were treated was absolutely appalling. We know also from the Wayne Couzens case that the police have a problem with women, especially sort of middle-class women. And in France, for example, the French middle class are instinctively suspicious of the police. They call them les flics, and they treat them with utmost caution. In this country, we've indulged in a kind of nostalgic love affair with the police. It's very much, in some ways, or was kind of Dixon of Dock Green. And when I grew up, I adored my local constable.
Yeah, and we trusted them.
Absolutely.
And we thought they had our best interests.
Exactly, but I no longer think this because I also wrote about my experience with the police when I had a mother with dementia.
This is very shocking what happened to you.
Who didn't know what she was doing or saying and who was subject to morbid paranoia, which is a dementia symptom. And she rang the police and she accused me of trying to kill her. The police arrived and instead of being sensitive, they treated me with the utmost brutality. They wouldn't listen to me. I wasn't even allowed to kind of answer back. I was told not to answer back. I was dragged out of the house in handcuffs, placed in a holding cell for 6 hours, and tormented and abused. I'm somebody who is middle class, law-abiding, and this shocked me to my core, and I've never felt the same about the police since.
So your police and the faith your faith in the police has been
and
well
also, I mean, the thing with going very briefly back to Nicola Bulley, I think it was totally gratuitous, unnecessary, and distasteful to release that personal information.
Well, indeed. And Henry Bolton, look, I know you're a great defender of the police, and actually, I'm usually with you. And on the Nicola Bulley case, I need to be very clear because the media has been criticised too. I did not utter Nicola Bulley's name in public or on this show until last Thursday.
Really?
And the reason that I decided I didn't want to join the circus. I think the police need to do their job. But you know, when my opinion changed, when the Lancashire police released that highly personal information about her suffering from menopause and having issues with alcohol, because Henry, do not tell me the police would have done the same thing if it was a man. There's no way the police would have released a statement saying, this older man has gone missing, he's suffering from issues with erectile dysfunction and is drinking a lot. They would not have done that. And so at that point, to me, this became an issue of police competence.
Yes and no. And, I agree with a lot of what Petronella has said about the general concern that...
But you think we're treating the Lancashire police unfairly,
in this particular case, I think, somebody said the other day, I can't remember who it was, that we need to learn the lessons as to how we speculate about such cases. And I tell you what the lesson is, don't speculate. And one of the problems here, and I don't know it's the case, and it's going to probably be the subject of an investigation by the Independent Police Complaints Authority, I'd imagine, but the police should be able to get on with their job. When the media, some media outlets have been clearly interfering with it on the ground, speaking to potential witnesses, going through the ground themselves, attacking the police, contacting the family, despite police and family requests not to. Now, then the police have got a problem, haven't they? And they've announced in a press conference that Nicola Bulley had some vulnerabilities.
Yeah, but they
didn't say what they were. No, wait, let me finish. Sorry. And thank you. And therein lies the problem. Because if the media have, and I don't know whether they have, certain people been contacting the family, harassing the family, neighbours, and so on, then just to let me finish, it's not a different issue if the police, and we don't know, in consultation with the family, have decided to try and close down all of that intrusion.
But Patsy Stevenson, let me bring Patsy in. Patsy Stevenson, it wasn't with the family's agreement, though. The police changed their mind within a couple of hours, and I believe it's because the Lancashire police were like, oh, goodness me, this press conference hasn't stopped all of the criticism of us. So it almost became victim-blaming of Nicola Bulley.
It did, and the thing is that as much as you can blame the media, the police fed the media that information, and therefore they ran with it, and so many headlines came out saying that, oh, was she a fit mother, and all. Just the absolute misogyny of these headlines. And yet again, we've got other cases where, that poor head teacher was murdered by her husband, and all the headlines said, oh, it's because she overshadowed him with her success, excusing his behaviour. So when a man is in the media...
But it's the police that released the information about Nicola Bulley.
But the police are not media experts. They're detectives, they're law enforcement people.
Exactly,
And the point is that they are flooded, they're inundated.
This was a PR disaster.
It was a PR disaster, but they are not a PR...
It's not
the job
of themselves against the media.
But they're required to. And they're also required to try to protect the public, and particularly victims and people around the victims and witnesses from that intrusion. And what I'm saying here...
What they released about Nicola...
You're not letting me... You're not letting... You don't know why they released that. I don't know why they released that. We're making assumptions by your judgment. Now, the police should rightly...
The police... And the family...
I mean, the Home Secretary has said that there were...
And she is partly unconvinced, were her words. Now, I think there are questions to answer here. I think the police should be reviewing, as they do in every major case, they review every step. They basically go through it again. They look at what went well and what went badly, and they review all that, and they try to learn the lessons from it. I mean, now, I don't know what the basis is, but I just... But this, if I can just say, Dan, this is against a backdrop that Petronella quite rightly described at the beginning of this discussion, whereby the public themselves and the media are all too ready, for some good reason, to criticise policing. And policing is not what it should be in that sense.
I think that's a bit unfair in this case, because I've given my example and I had absolutely no intention of criticising the police. I thought it was important that the investigation was allowed to play out. But the way that they handled, and there were times when it really felt like the Lancashire police were getting off on the attention. They tweeted a reply to someone who'd made a Lego miniature
I mean, wasn't that a
of
little
Detective
bit
Smith. It was
inappropriate?
just bizarre.
Yeah, I mean, I'd not heard about that, so that is baffling. But I think, you know, from someone who does criticise the police a lot, I actually was one of those people that I didn't think they would not necessarily not do something wrong, but, you know, when it comes down to a missing person or something really severe that, in my belief, we kind of have to rely on the police for, which I wish we didn't have to rely on just the police force. That's just my personal opinion because of my view of the police. This is one of those instances where I was like, well, OK, they have to just get on with their job and I hope they do it well. And they didn't do it well, unfortunately.
I think the police should not be tweeting. They should not be out doing all these, the dancing and everything they do. This has undermined the whole thing. The ethos of policing as a profession to serve the public, to protect life and property, has and be credible in doing it, to be protective, but yet...
Well, I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more.
But
that has been undermined, and the Petronalla's point, I guess, is that has been undermined.
And the tweeting and the Lego models is part of that problem.
Yeah, no, indeed. OK, fascinating discussion. Daily Telegraph columnist Petronella Wyatt, women's rights advocate Patsy Stevenson, and the former leader of the UK Independence Party, Henry Bolton. Thank you so much. But who do you agree with here? Has the Nicola Bulley case made you lose faith in the police? John on Twitter says, after a series of mistakes by the police, I lost faith a long time ago. Penny says, I lost faith in the police when they started dancing at pride parades and questioning people for wrong thing, very similar to what Henry was just saying. And from Kit on Twitter, I still have faith in the police. They are not the problem. It's the social media detectives treating crimes as if they can be solved easily with conspiracies. And your verdict is now in. This is fascinating. Probably our closest poll in a long time. 53% of you say the Nicola Bulley case has made you lose faith in the police. 47% say you still believe in them. Coming up, as Northern Ireland protocol negotiations hang in the balance, I'm joined by prominent Labour Brexit campaigner Baroness Kate Hoey, who warns that if Brussels bulldozes our Brexit deal, the Tories are toast. Don't miss her live at 9:50. But next, with more concerned parents unfairly branded far-right bigots for simply exercising their right to protest against migrant hotels in their communities, why are the left so determined to shut down the immigration debate? Nigel Farage, he is live with me on this straight after the break.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, no, stop arguing. I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment. I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different.
Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
Is the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. We're going to be here for you, our GB News family, to keep you up to date, but also make you smile.
The guy went from puberty to adultery.
And I can't wait to bring a few of my own opinions.
I have no time for cultural totalitarianism.
We'll engage in passionate, but always polite debate, with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online, across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
It's something that you would never want anyone to suffer.
I didn't know what channels there were. I didn't think I'd be believed.
I must have weighed about 7 stone and I'm 5'8". My instincts was to sort of cover this up. I mean, clearly that was a mistake.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
He's the king of breakfast TV and he's back.
Eamon Holmes, back on the TV with me this morning.
Even remember my name.
I know, it's been 4 months. You have holy water by your bed?
Oh, yes. Already to bless.
Oh, Eamon. Oh.
Why do you not believe anything I say?
Eamon Holmes back on GB News Breakfast at 6 a.m.
Join me, Patrick Christie's, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics, and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, Andrew Pierce here. Join me every Friday lunchtime for a proper no-nonsense debrief of the week's events. With special guests in the studio and the GB News team on the ground, I'll be getting you up to date with news, some intelligent discussion, and my own sharp take. The weekend starts here with me every Friday lunchtime on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Time now for What the Farage, and another 200 concerned parents protested against the migrant hotel in Knowsley, Liverpool, again on Sunday, as the local community continues to try everything to make their fear and fury heard. But with politicians and the MSM still dismissing their genuine concerns about uncontrollable immigration as far-right bigotry, this was the locals' message back to them.
Us looking after our daughters and our children. We want safety and we want security. You're protecting these when you should be out there protecting our kids. You're a disgrace. Get them out! Get them out! Get them out! Get them out! No far right here, lad. Just concerned parents. Concerned parents. I've got 2 daughters and I'm concerned for the safety. We're going to carry on until they're gone.
So, Nigel, these folks have heard the comments from the likes of Lewis Goodall at LBC saying these are just far-right protests, and they're taking them on head-on and saying, no, we're just concerned parents.
Yes, I mean, the very people that cause the problem by their completely ludicrous liberal ideas that somehow allowing in tens of thousands of young men from cultures, by the way, in which women aren't even second-class citizens. The idea that somehow it's now the fault of ordinary mums and dads, aunts and uncles, grandmas and grandpas, it's their fault and they're somehow is nonsense. I don't know whether you saw, Dan, but yesterday in Kent, 4 teenage schoolgirls protested in Dover outside a police station. This is just the beginning. In Ireland, 80 protests this year. And at the end of the day, how do you blame people? You know, we saw what happened in Rotherham, in Telford, in Oxford, and elsewhere. And the biggest warning of a lot, what is happening in Sweden, which is truly horrendous. See, Stockholm, which I knew in the 90s, I was in business, was one of the safest, nicest cities in the world, now crime-ridden, full of gangs. I promise you, these protests have only just begun. We are about to enter a very difficult, very fractious period. Every attempt will be made by our politicians, by mainstream media, to demonise ordinary mums and dads concerned about the welfare of their daughters. And I think it really is incumbent upon us to point out that whilst, yes, of course, with any protest, there'll always be a few nut jobs that happens on the left and the right, everywhere else. But the majority of those people are just decent folk worried about their kids. And we've done this to ourselves. The Conservative government, elected with an 80-seat majority to take back control of our borders, has allowed this to happen. I tell you what, we ought to be angry on behalf of those parents.
Totally. Totally, and not just demonise these folk. Now, look, Nigel, probably biggest story in the world, the ongoing Ukraine war, and the former PM Liz Truss has joined her predecessor Boris Johnson in calling for fighter jets to be sent to Ukraine. Watch.
You from working inside the government that we did all we could as quickly as we could to persuade allies, and we have built up now an alliance of countries supplying those weapons, and I can't wait to see the tanks, and I can't wait to see the fighter jets in Ukraine to help those brave Ukrainians.
But Nigel, what no one is asking is whether we're at risk of unnecessarily escalating this war.
Escalation. This is escalation. Former prime ministers. I mean, Boris Johnson wants to send the entirety of the Royal Air Force, the lot. I mean, you almost can't believe how mad some of this is. Nobody thinks what Putin did a year ago this Friday was right. Some of us predicted it. I said in the European Parliament in 2014, there will be a war in Ukraine because we will have given Putin a casus belli. That doesn't make me a Putin supporter, but this now is entering into the territory of madness. And I have to say, most of the media report great, huge.
Oh, no. I think we've just lost Nigel Farage. What a shame. We'll see if we can get him back in just one moment. But no, he's gone. We had a few issues with his microphone. I think we might have him back. I'll just hang on for 1 minute to see. I think, Nigel, we've got you back. Oh, no. Oh, no. Can you hear us, Nigel?
Extraordinary.
Oh, you can? No. Anyway, we've lost him. We've lost him. Nigel Farage, thank you so much. Back tomorrow night at 7 p.m, of course. But coming up, should SNP leadership frontrunner Kate Forbes' moral position based on religious beliefs really stop her becoming First Minister? That's our big debate in the media buzz after 10 tonight. But next, as negotiations hang in the balance, what's at stake if Rishi Sunak butchers Brexit negotiations over Northern Ireland? Famous Labour pro-Brexit campaigner Kate Hoey gives her expert take. She's live with me straight after the break.
First and foremost, I am a GB News fan, and I was before I was working here. Just love the fact that we're asking the questions that a lot of establishment media won't ask.
With a bit of a twist, we not only want to inform you, but we want to keep you entertained.
It's worth the drive because you get in and the team's all ready and waiting, they're itching to go, and it's a proper little family.
GB News is the People's Channel.
It's the audience that makes the programme sing.
We're giving our viewers and our listeners a voice. I see the thousands of your letters, tweets, emails, you name it, coming in.
Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it?
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent you.
It's time for something different. It's time for GB News. I'm very patriotic. I believe in Britain. Our best days lie ahead.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Join us here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Hi, Andrew Pierce here. Join me every Friday lunchtime for a proper no-nonsense debrief of the week's events. With special guests in the studio and the GB News team on the ground, I'll be getting you up to date with news, some intelligent discussion and my own sharp take. The weekend starts here with me every Friday lunchtime on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michael Portillo. Join me on GB News on a Sunday morning for topical discussion, debate, arts and culture, and sometimes even ethical dilemmas.
I don't always agree with you, Michael.
Michael Portillo, Sundays on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my two comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Here on GB News Live, we'll be keeping you in the picture, finding out what's happening across the country and finding out why it matters to you. We'll have the facts fast with our team of reporters and specialist correspondents. Wherever it's happening, we'll be there from 12 noon on TV, radio and online. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Lawrence Fox, on GB News. Frank, fun, fearless and sometimes serious. Much as I love a Friday night punch-up, what I really want is a battle of ideas. I want to look at things differently. I want to hear different voices and engage with your unique experiences. Every Friday at 7 p.m. on GB News.
Breaking tonight, members of the dedicated European research group have met with the Northern Irish DUP leaders this evening amid fears Rishi Sunak may be about to sell them out on a post-Brexit deal. Now, this comes as the government and the EU say progress has been made in resolving the dispute over Northern Ireland's post-Brexit trading rules, but more still needs to be agreed.
For UK partners, we have made good progress, that we clearly can see the finishing line. But in such a negotiation, being close doesn't mean being done.
Former Labour MP, major Brexit campaigner, Baroness Kate Hoey, joins me live in the studio. Kate, I believe you were at this major meeting of the ERG with the DUP leader tonight. What happened?
Well, obviously it was a very, very good meeting, very positive meeting, listening to Jeffrey talking about what was going on. And I think all I really want to say is that there was very, very huge support for his position and for a real feeling that, you know, this is sort of crunch time. This is really going to test Rishi Sunak. Is he prepared to stick up for the United Kingdom, or is he going to give in to EU grandishments?
Well, I don't have faith in him. Do you?
Well, I would like to think I have, because he is the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. He's the Conservative and Unionist Party. But so far, yes, there might have been a little bit of progress, and it's all warm words. But until anyone, and no one has seen any detail, any legal documents, legal texts, and of course it's the legal text the European Union are so brilliant at writing in a way that actually afterwards we discover that our officials have been duped.
And this text has been withheld from the ERG, it's been withheld from the DUP.
Yeah.
So that leads to suspicion.
Yes, and, you know, the argument is that we can't leak anything because, you know, once it's leaked, then people will be able to come out and pick bits about it. But, you know, the idea that he was thinking of actually bringing out something today when he only was talking to the DUP on Thursday night and to the other Northern Ireland parties on Friday morning without anything in writing was just, I think what's come across here is that he genuinely doesn't seem to really understand Northern Ireland people and the political parties in Northern Ireland. And what encourages me is that there are now ministers even who are speaking up and implying that they will not accept this opportunity. Remember, the protocol was never meant to be permanent, and that was always Boris Johnson's argument, that, you know, let's just get this over and then we can sort this out afterwards. We now have an opportunity, and if we don't take it, then, you know, it's not just about Northern Ireland. This is about the whole of the Union and the United Kingdom.
I couldn't agree more, but the sad thing is, Kate, in this current cabinet, there are so few real Brexiteers. There's lots of Brino types, Brexit in name only. I mean, who do you look to show that moral leadership? Presumably the Home Secretary, Suella Braverman, and Steve Baker, who's now a minister?
Well, I'm afraid Steve Baker seems to have lost his... let's say, his fervour for leaving the European Union and, of course, being a junior minister in Northern Ireland. I would imagine that poor old Steve has not been really that involved with any of this. I think within the cabinet, I think Suella Braverman was very, very strong during her campaign about the whole issue. I think she really understood it, having been the former Attorney General, understood this whole question. I mean, this is a situation, and I think for viewers and listeners who must get rather fed up with the protocol, it's very simple. If you live in Manchester and your business is trading with Scotland, they don't have any restrictions. If you live in Manchester and your business is trading with Northern Ireland, you have huge amounts of bureaucracy, customs duties, and ways of making it hugely bureaucratic. So business says, why should we bother trading with Northern Ireland? So Northern Ireland businesses and Northern Ireland people are now having to diverge to where their trade is coming from, and of course some of that is going to the Republic of Ireland, which is what the Irish government love, and the European Union has used this as a way of weaponising Brexit.
Indeed, so massive practical downsides, but it's also a question of sovereignty, isn't it? And as far as I can tell, the fudge seems to be in this potential new deal that they're going to say, oh, don't worry about the European judges because there's going to be some sort of panel that sits between the European Court of Justice and the British justices, but that doesn't work, does it? Because the European judges would still fundamentally have the final say.
Yeah, and the European judges don't have that control over what's happening in the rest of the United Kingdom. And I think that to me...
So treating Northern Ireland differently.
Absolutely, and that is breaking up the union. Now, I think what is really strong now, that the bottom line seems to be for everyone, certainly, who is a true Brexiteer and who believes in the union and wants to support Northern Ireland, is that you cannot have EU law in any way involved with trade from Great Britain to Northern Ireland, or indeed, very importantly, trade from Northern Ireland into the Republic. Because if anything is left under EU rules, then we do not have sovereign, and you would not allow that to happen. I said Rishi Sunak would not let Yorkshire, have this. Why should we?
The political judgment that folk around Rishi Sunak seem to be making is that they would be able to convince the members of the ERG, even if the DUP is opposed to the deal. Now, you were at this meeting tonight. Is the ERG in lockstep with the DUP?
The ERG is in lockstep with getting back control of the whole of the United Kingdom. I felt very strongly that was the message that came across from very senior members and former cabinet ministers who were there.
So the ERG is not for turning on this?
I would very, very, very strongly feel that the ERG realises this. We can go no further on this. This is the opportunity now to genuinely get a real Brexit for the whole of the United Kingdom and not leave one part of it out on a limb and in this kind of limbo situation. For example, my favourite topic is I can get duty-free if I fly from London to Faro. I can't get duty-free if I fly from Belfast to Faro because we're still in the EU. But you can't get duty-free from Belfast to London because the Treasury say, oh, no, you're in GB. So, there's a lot. That's just one little example. The ERG, I believe, is not for turning. And I hope that Rishi Sunak realises that this is his opportunity. If he's serious about wanting to keep the red wall seats that he took from Labour, he needs to show that he's determined and prepared to take on the European Union.
Kate, wasn't this always the risk of the anti-democratic coup against Boris Johnson?
Well, I think that more and more of Conservative MPs who stupidly, I think, in a rush, without really giving it thought, got rid of Boris. Now, Boris, of course, was responsible for bringing through the protocol. But as I said, he did feel that we'd get this and then we'll sort it out. And I think that there are many, many Conservative MPs really ruining the way this was done. And I never can really understand it because he got into trouble because he had got this ticket. What do you call it?
The fixed penalty.
But Rishi Sunak got and no one ever mentions that.
Indeed, and I always felt like Brexit was the ultimate reason behind why
they were out to get Boris from the beginning.
To depose Boris.
Yeah,
and
they were.
What it means is there's now a Chancellor who was imposed, who we know wants a Norway-style deal, who we know campaigned for a second referendum. I just don't feel anymore like this Conservative government is a true Brexiteer government. I mean, look at the tax rates, which have, as Lord Frost said last week, completely crippled lots of the opportunities that could have come as a result of Brexit. So I am very suspicious. I think the Conservative Party now needs to prove from the grassroots up, and the ERG will be a big part of that, that they are still a true blue Brexit-believing party, because my faith in Sunak has been really shaky.
I think a lot of people's faith has been... We have missed so many opportunities. Even though the withdrawal agreement wasn't perfect, there was enough in it to actually get us to be looking to really make a difference to this country and taking back control generally. And I mean, we've just had the whole discussion about what's happening with the boats and all of that. You know, it is just, it's very, very sad. And for those of us who campaigned, and particularly for those Labour supporters who, when I would go to rallies, would be pleased that a Labour MP was there, and they felt this is their moment to really change things. But it's not over yet, and we mustn't become
the establishment
too depressed.
Is all powerful. But no, I think this pushback is very important. But Kate Howitt, you will keep on this, of course, the former Labour MP and Brexit campaign, of course, a life here in the House of Lords. Thank you so much. But coming up, with Meghan Markle said to be obsessed with the court battle she's fighting with her estranged sister Samantha. Does she deserve the scorn from Hollywood liberal circles that she's now receiving? Well, Samantha is going to be here. She's speaking out live in an exclusive interview at 10:20. But first, with a strong socially conservative current running through the SNP, should frontrunner Kate Forbes' moral position based on religious beliefs really stop her succeeding from scheming Sturgeon as First Minister? That's our big debate in the media buzz. We're back in just 2 minutes' time.
Here on GB News Live, we'll be keeping you in the picture, finding out what's happening across the country and finding out why it matters to you. We'll have the facts fast with our team of reporters and specialist correspondents. Wherever it's happening, we'll be there from 12 noon on TV, radio and online. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my two comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michael Portillo. Join me on GB News on a Sunday morning for topical discussion, debate, arts and culture, and sometimes even ethical dilemmas.
I don't always agree with you, Michael.
Michael Portillo, Sundays on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akue, Saturday and Sunday afternoons on GB News. Expect fiery debate and passionate discussion as me and my panel tackle some of the biggest topics hitting the headlines. It's a place for everyone's opinion. No one gets cancelled, but no one gets an easy ride.
Oh, she's on it today!
Be ready for conversations that are fierce, frank, and of course, fun. Every Saturday and Sunday afternoon from 4 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online. Across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you know, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's 10 p.m. I'm Dan Wootton. Tonight, as the woman tipped to replace Nicola Sturgeon becomes a mainstream media punching bag for being honest about her Christian faith.
Marriage being between a man and a woman, that is what I practice. But I will not roll back on any rights that already exist in Scotland.
So should Kate Forbes, Scotland's finance secretary for the last 3 years, be stopped from becoming First Minister for her religious beliefs? That's our big debate with my superstar panel next. And tonight, I'm joined by Amanda Platel, Matt Letizia and Rebecca Reid. After the family of Nicola Bulley speak out about their dreadful treatment from sections of the media, should Sly News apologise for callous coverage such as this?
Striking me at the moment is that she had quite a lick on, so you know she wasn't sauntering. She wasn't like alone with her thoughts. She was properly moving.
Plus, after their botched investigation, has the Lancashire force damaged trust in the police? We're going to examine The tragic case that has captivated the nation at 10:30. Also coming up tonight, as reports claim Meghan is, quote, upset and overwhelmed over her South Park roasting.
Oh yeah, is this you? Sorority girl, actress, influencer, victim. Yeah, that's totally me.
Well, in an exclusive interview, Samantha Markle is going to hit out at her perma victim sister. She's live from Florida at 10:20. And as it's revealed, Prince Harry's legal battle to have gun guards is costing the British taxpayer £300,000. Does the privileged Duke need to pick up his own security bill? Esteemed royal biographer Tom Bower uncancelled on that at 10:40. We'll also see how tomorrow's newspaper front pages are reacting to Rishi Sunak's impending Brexit betrayal. And should Suella Braverman walk if the PM cozies up to Brussels and endangers Northern Ireland's place in the Union? The Home Secretary is among the nominees for tonight's Greatest Britain and Union Jackass at 10:50. All of that coming up straight after the news with Polly Middlehurst.
Dan, thank you, and good evening to you. Our top story on GB News tonight. The US president says the United States is to announce new sanctions against Russia this week. President Biden was speaking to thousands who gathered in the centre of Warsaw, telling the crowds the Ukrainian people's love of their country will win the war against Russia. It follows talks he held this afternoon with the president of Poland, a day after his surprise visit to Ukraine. The two leaders addressed security issues and growing NATO's presence within Poland.
The West was not plotting to attack Russia, as Putin said today. And millions of Russian citizens who only want to live in peace with their neighbors are not the enemy. This war is never a necessity. It's a tragedy.
Well, also today, Russia issued a warning to the West by suspending its participation in its nuclear arms treaty with the United States. Vladimir Putin made the announcement during a major speech on the war in Ukraine, where he also accused the West of trying to acquire limitless power.
Russia does not abandon the treaty, but suspends its participation. Before resuming the discussion of this treaty, we must first understand what do such countries of NATO, like France and Great Britain, aspire to do, and how will we take their strategic arsenals into account.
Well, here at home, government departments have recommended that NHS workers, police officers and teachers get a 3.5% pay rise in new submissions to the independent pay review body. That's well below the average pay demand of around 10%. And that as nurses announced a pause on next week's planned strike action, saying they've entered intensive talks now on pay with the government. The Royal College of Nursing talks with the Health Secretary Steve Barclay will start in earnest tomorrow. Nurses were set to walk out on March the 1st for 48 hours in their long-running dispute over job, pay and conditions. And the Chancellor is under pressure to improve public sector pay rises for workers after official figures showed today that state finances are stronger than were predicted. The Office for National Statistics revealed the government reported a monthly surplus of £5.4 billion in January. The surprising number is mainly because of self-assessment income tax. But Jeremy Hunt, who's due to set out his plans for tax and spending in the budget on March the 15th, played down the significance of the surplus to national finances. The Princess of Wales visited a care home today for elderly people in Berkshire. And as it's Pancake Day, Kate picked up some batter, a spatula and a frying pan to flip some culinary treats. However, even the princess had to admit she didn't have much of a flair for it. She even said her children might boycott her pancakes after seeing her latest attempt, which she called a congealed blob. You're up to date on TV, online and DAB+ radio. This is GB News. Back now to Dan Wootton tonight.
Tomorrow's news tonight now in our media buzz. First look at the front pages hot off the press, and the Metro reports that a police WhatsApp group contained 2 years' worth of abuse against women, gay people, ethnic minorities and the disabled, and what it brands a ring of hatred Inside the Met, a slur against Katie Price's disabled son Harvey was among the sexist and racist posts, the newspaper reports. The Guardian leads with Royal College of Nursing's announcement that they are suspending March's strike action to enter intensive pay talks with the government, as the Unison union warns that meeting with one union alone will do nothing to solve the dispute. My superstar panel back with me now. Top Daily Mail columnist Amanda Patel, England football legend and social commentator Matt Le Tissier, and the best-selling author Rebecca Reid. News of scheming Sturgeon's impending departure as Scotland's First Minister has kicked off a leadership race north of the border. But the woman who was once widely tipped to replace Queen Nick has now become the scourge of the mainstream media due to her socially conservative views. So this is what Kate Forbes told Channel 4 News just last night.
Marriage being between a man and a woman, that is what I practice. But I will not roll back on any rights that already exist in Scotland.
If you were about at the time where you were able to legislate on this, that's been and gone now, but you would have voted against that then because of your beliefs.
I would have.
Now, those beliefs, informed by Forbes' Christian values, have triggered a meltdown from the political and media establishment, with several of her SNP backers withdrawing their support overnight. But with the political elite just sure she's finished, the Scottish Finance Secretary has doubled down on her beliefs, telling Sly News that she doesn't believe in having children out of wedlock.
In your view, wrong then for people to have children outside of marriage? That's your view, isn't it?
I mean, you're asking me, would I impose my views on other people? Ultimately, that's what you're asking.
No, I'm just asking what your view is.
So,
is that correct? You know,
in terms of me personally, that is the approach I would practice. But you're also asking me, do I think that some of my family who've done that are wrong? Do I think that some of my friends who've done that are wrong? I mean, I accept them.
Now, look, I understand that those views may clash with the far left wing of the SNP, who supported Sturgeon's sick gender recognition reform bill, but much of the party's membership base is actually socially conservative, meaning her leadership bid may not be as damaged as the establishment are making you believe. And those traditional SNP members will be encouraged by the author, by Forbes' beliefs, which couldn't be more at odds with the legacy of Sturgeon.
Is Isla Bryson, in your view, a man or a woman?
A rapist cannot be a woman, and therefore my straight answer would be that Isla Bryson is a man.
So voters value transparency. You may not agree with her beliefs, but at least she's had the decency to be honest about them, something Slippery Starmer down in Westminster never quite managed during his leadership campaign. So, look, Amanda Patel, I don't agree with all of Kate Forbes' beliefs, but do these personal beliefs really mean that she shouldn't succeed scheming Sturgeon, as every other MSM outlet seems to be saying today?
I don't think that they should prohibit her, but I think that they will. Her support is already hemorrhaging. And actually, I find a lot of her views, you know, I'm a practicing Christian. I could never vote for someone who was against gay marriages. You know, I could never vote for someone who was against civil partnerships. You know, this nonsense about someone who has a baby, you know, they're operating outside of the Christian values. I find the whole thing, I just find, watching her, I find it like she's a dinosaur. And that people, I don't even know people who hold those views anymore. And I certainly wouldn't vote for her. But the irony...
There's usually one of them sitting right next to you, Calvin Robinson. It's Matt Le Tissier tonight. But he would be cheering from the rooftops.
I know he would be, but, you know, I respect Calvin, even though I realise you're not Calvin. I respect him, but I don't actually respect his views.
And you don't have to respect those views, but Matt Le Tissier, isn't there something sort of amazingly refreshing about a leader in a leadership campaign actually being honest about what she thinks? Because remember, Slippery Starmer told lie after lie after lie after lie, and then he got the job and then told lie after lie after lie again. So you actually don't know what the bloke believes. At least we know what Kate Forbes believes, and she's telling the truth. She's telling her
exactly what I was just going to say to Amanda. She's actually come out and said what she said, and she's been honest. So now the electorate has a chance to go, OK, that's your views. We know them. let us decide.
She
whether
has
we
said
align
she
with
wouldn't
those views or not.
legislate for them. She would say that,
She did.
would.
She did.
That
And
she would not impose them.
I've got the utmost respect for her coming out and being brave
That's
enough.
a joke.
Being brave enough to give her views, knowing she would have known by saying what she said.
Okay,
she would have known what the
Rebecca
backlash
Reed
was gonna be.
totally disagrees with you, Matt Letizia. You say this woman's an idiot.
I mean, I think the bar is on the floor if what we're saying is, well, she said something really horrible, but at least she was honest about having horrible trash views. And those are horrible trash views. As a single parent, the idea of somebody like that sitting there going, I accept people who have children and aren't in wedlock. There are words that I cannot say on this programme that I would like to say to her. It makes me so angry. It's patronising and old-fashioned and outdated and stigmatising. And I truly, truly think that if I were a Scottish person and she was in charge, I wouldn't want to live in the same country as her. I think she is so abhorrent. Just honestly, she makes me so angry. And the idea that we can defend her because she was honest. I don't get to say trash things and they'd be like, I'm just honest.
Yes, you do. All the time.
I walked into that one, didn't I, guys?
Into that one.
I don't expect to be praised for saying things that other people think are trash just because I'm being honest.
But I appreciate your honesty. And if you want to trash somebody on here and you say it, then I appreciate
can we
you
just
being
talk
able
about
to
the
do
politics of this for a moment, though? Because this
it was a stupid
is
thing to
now
do.
a huge identity crisis for the SNP.
So
because you had Nicola Sturgeon dragging this party to the extreme woke left. You've got an absolute fool in Humza Yousaf, now the favourite to replace Sturgeon. I mean, this bloke is one of the most incompetent politicians in the country, so I will be...
So he'll get
giddy
in.
with
So he'll get
excitement
in
that
then.
he becomes the leader. But Amanda, this woman, Kate Forbes, the problem is if she becomes leader now, where do the SNP stand on all of these issues which Sturgeon was taking them towards?
OK, don't you think the greatest irony here is that you have a kind of fundamentalist Christian who doesn't believe in gay marriage or gay partnerships, all the rest of it, and you did a little bit of research today, Dan. I know that always makes you shudder. This guy, Humza Yousaf, was brought up as raised in a Catholic household, had a car crash, and then had a vision, was reading the Quran, and he's now a practicing Muslim. So you've got a
But he
guy...
does support same-sex marriage.
He says he also believes in Muslim religion.
Excuse me. He abstained from the vote of same-sex marriage. He had an important meeting which turned out to be fake. He's dodgy. And so you have two bunches of people who hate gay people.
There is no religion that thinks
but
acceptable.
what's fascinating about this, Matt Letizia, and this is what always frustrates me, it's absolutely fine for the MSM to hammer the Christian Christian about her socially conservative beliefs, but we never hammer the Muslim, who have even more socially conservative beliefs, who don't even really believe that women deserve a role in society.
Some
and think gay people should be thrown off buildings.
I fundamentally disagree with that. I have said many, many times that Sadiq Khan's modesty attitudes about advertising on the tube, there were in particular adverts, women in tights, that he wouldn't allow women in bikinis, and I think that was part of his religious background, and I have said that. I've said that on television many times.
Religious views. As Amanda's pointed out, he's a Muslim who has abstained
practicing
gay marriage.
He said, as a religious person.
His religious
but
views
she said it.
preclude
no one's calling you to account.
But she brought it up. She, in that interview, said, this is my faith, and that's why.
Yeah, but no one is...
But he hasn't said. If he said...
And he is now... He is now
I'm perfectly happy to ask that. Lots of people are, but
No, the mainstream media are not happy to ask that.
I am in the mainstream media, and I ask those questions.
OK.
Have you asked Hamza?
I have not today, no.
I think this proves yet again that the mainstream media will go for Christians in a way that they won't go for Muslims.
Absolutely true.
Now, after a turbulent few months, deposed Tory leader Liz Truss was back in the Commons yesterday, making her first backbench contribution in over a decade. There was just a little blunder.
My colleague, the member for Uxbridge, commented on... Sorry, the Right Honourable, of course, Right Honourable Member for Uxbridge, sorry about that, I do apologise. I should, let's be honest, I should have more respect after everything.
After everything, indeed. I actually thought it was really refreshing to see her back in the thick of it, even managing to bring some humour to a usually chairless chamber. And Liz, we still trust. Rebecca Reed, Matt Letizia, Amanda Mattel. Zip at you.
I won't come back.
I'll be back shortly because coming up, After Amanda criticised Lancashire Superintendent Rebecca Smith for her choice of dress at a Missy Nicola Bulley press conference, did she and her police force fail the British public on the case? Well, Amanda's going to have her say on that at 10:30. But next, with Meghan apparently miffed at the mockery South Park subjected her to earlier this week.
Instagram-loving wife actually doesn't want her privacy. How dare you, sir? My Instagram-loving wife has always wanted her privacy.
Does she really deserve the public humiliation from America's liberal media? Samantha Markle, her estranged sister, currently engaged in a court battle with the Duchess of Sussex, thinks so. She's going to join me live for an exclusive interview straight after the break.
First and foremost, I am a GB News fan, and I was before I was working here. Just love the fact that we're asking the questions that a lot of establishment media won't ask.
With a bit of a twist, we not only want to inform you, but we want to keep you entertained.
It's worth the drive because you get in and the team's all ready and waiting, they're itching to go, and it's a proper little family.
GB News is the people's channel.
It's the audience that makes the programme sing.
We're giving our viewers and our listeners a voice. I see the thousands of your letters, tweets, emails, you name it, coming in.
Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it?
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent you.
It's time for something different. It's time for GB News. I'm very patriotic. I believe in Britain. Our best days lie ahead.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Join us here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my two comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Here on GB News Live, we'll be keeping you in the picture, finding out what's happening across the country and finding out why it matters to you. We'll have the facts fast with our team of reporters and specialist correspondents. Wherever it's happening, we'll be there from 12 noon on TV, radio and online. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michael Portillo. Join me on GB News on a Sunday morning for topical discussion, debate, arts and culture, and sometimes even ethical dilemmas.
I don't always agree with you, Michael.
Michael Portillo, Sundays on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
You're an inspiration to us all.
Clip that bit up.
Well, you are.
That's my ringtone. My political ambitions are, those days are gone, I can tell you. She's only teasing. Go on. He's probably going to want to lay down now. I'll give him 2 minutes to have one. Let's respectfully disagree. That's what we like on Jubes and Kerr. Come and join us. GB News, the People's Channel.
Michelle Dewberry, weekday evenings at 6 o'clock.
I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m.
What's the scoop?
I'll be joined by two of the country's top comedians.
That's right.
As we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight.
We're going to get into trouble.
If it's a big story, we'll be covering it.
Spill some tea on him.
There we go.
But we'll also have some fun.
I wouldn't stick up a bank.
My father didn't love me.
So anyway.
Headliners every night from 11 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akue, Saturday and Sunday afternoons on GB News. Expect fiery debate and passionate discussion as me and my panel tackle some of the biggest topics hitting the headlines. It's a place for everyone's opinion. No one gets cancelled, but no one gets an easy ride.
Oh, she's on it today!
Be ready for conversations that are fierce, frank, and of course, fun. Every Saturday and Sunday afternoon from 4 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back. As well as being what the comedy geniuses at South Park describe as a sorority girl, actress, influencer and victim, it also turns out that, surprise, surprise, Meghan Markle just can't take a joke. In a bombshell report overnight, The Spectator's US edition revealed that despite refusing to watch the world-famous satirical comedy cartoon, Meghan is still upset and overwhelmed by it. The article also reports that the Duchess of Delusion is obsessed with her estranged sister Samantha Markle's lawsuit, which Samantha launched over some of the vicious and completely untrue claims Meghan made about her during the Sussexes' infamous 2021 interview with Oprah Winfrey. Well, I'm delighted to say that joining us now from Florida is a friend of the show, Samantha Markle herself. And in a moment, we're going to play Sam some of those deeply upsetting and hilarious South Park clips. But first, Sam, I wanted to get your reaction to this Spectator report that your sister is obsessed with this case that you have filed against her. Were you surprised by that?
Not really, and I have to say, I take articles that use terms like sources say with a grain of salt. So that being said, I didn't really take it seriously, and I think, though, if it was true and if it was leaked by her PR, it would be incredible arrogance, in my opinion, to be obsessed with the case and to not realize that I was horribly defamed, which is different. You know, defamation involves statements of fact that are demonstrably false and that are injurious. So I think that's very different from comedy, as in the South Park skit. So I doubt that she's obsessed, whatever that means.
Lady Colin Cabell, who you know as a regular contributor to this show, said that even if the judge ends up throwing out this case, you have already won in the court of public opinion. Do you feel that, Sam? Can you sense a change around you in the US about the way people talk about your sister and her husband, Prince Harry?
No, I think her PR are putting out propaganda like that. But, you know, if there's a technicality or something that needs to be changed, we amend it and we refile. So to suggest that it's over or that it's going in her favor, I think is presumptuous and false.
So I know you can't talk too much about the specifics of the case, but you intend to keep fighting in court to clear your name. It's very important to you that you actually do this in a court.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, look, Sam, I want to play you the first of these South Park clips and get you to react. So this one brilliantly exposes some of the Sussexes' laughable hypocrisy. Watch.
And his wife. We want privacy! We want privacy! Thanks for having us on the show. It's so awesome to be here. It's great. So let me start with you, Sam. You've lived a life with the royal family. You've had everything handed to you, but you say your life has been hard, and now you've written all about it in your new book, Where? Yes, that's right, friend. You see, my wife and I are totally like, you should write a book because your family's like stupid, and then so are like journalists. So you hate journalists. That's right. And now you wrote a book that reports on the lives of the royal family. Right. So you're a journalist. We just want to be normal people. All this attention is so hard. Isn't it true, sir, that your questionable wife has her own TV show and hangs out with celebrities and does fashion magazines? What are you suggesting? Well, I just think some people might say that your Instagram-loving wife actually doesn't want her privacy. How dare you, sir? My Instagram-loving wife has always wanted her privacy. And you know what else? To hell with Canada. We are leaving. We'll go find some quiet place where we can be normal people. Come on, wife. We want privacy. We want privacy.
Sam, it summed them up so well, didn't it?
It's hysterical, and even as like a distance, resemblance or likeness. What I thought was so glaring and so brilliant about it is it's true. You know, for people who pay PR, they say they hate journalists. Harry hates journalists, but to pay PR that is loaded with journalists and that is loaded with publications and television shows who say what you want and who, shape social perception in your favor while also disparaging and lying about others, thereby reaching their privacy. I think the whole, worldwide privacy tour is hysterical because you're, in my opinion, in the opinion of others, they're putting themselves on the world stage using expensive PR while demanding privacy, while writing books, while being on Oprah that had 50 million viewers. People who want privacy don't do that. You live your life quietly in privacy. So it's such hypocrisy. I think they did a brilliant job, really.
I think they did too. Now, the second clip maybe gets a little too close to the reality of what it's like inside Sussex Inc. Look.
Back by changing our brand. All right, and I do see you're in our database, but you didn't first get help at this Cumhammer location?
No, my wife went to one in California as a child.
Ah, okay, then you must be in the national system. Oh yeah, is this you? Sorority girl, actress, influencer, victim.
Yeah, that's totally me.
Okay, I see. And then you added your husband to your friends and family account. You must be the Royal Prince Millionaire World Traveler victim.
That's right.
So, Sam, you're nodding along there. Do you think they have almost crafted a narrative of being victims that's now starting to explode in their face?
Yeah, and so many people have commented from the South Africa documentary where she said nobody asked if I'm okay. People are starving and suffering, and in my opinion, the opinion of others, you can't play victim when you're flying around on private jets, when you've got security, when you're loaded with millions, you're getting 100 million for this deal, 2 million for that deal. That's not anything to play victim over. I don't know. I don't feel sorry for that, but it's incredible hypocrisy. And I think, though, that victim label allows them seemingly to pull at the heartstrings of people. And it's a smokescreen. It's a smokescreen from what's really going on. So,
now watch this third clip, Sam, and tell me if you think there might be any hidden messages.
Okay. Trying to make ourselves into a brand just turned us into products. We don't need to be a brand, do we? If it's truly what we want, then we really can get away from it all. No more magazines and Netflix shows. We really can live a normal life. Yes, I'm sure you agree, darling. We can be the people we talked about being, with no more worries about how we look or the image we project to people. What matters is what we have on the inside.
So what are they implying there, Sam? And do you agree?
I think a lot of people feel that it's been demonstrated that there's a lacking of empathy, remorse, shame, and that, they're kind of empty. That what I think the writers were saying is that there's a shallowness there, a hypocrisy and emptiness. And if they were so sincere about those things, they wouldn't have been parading around the world without considering others, without, the words that come out of their mouth, in other words, are seemingly meaningless because they don't live up to that. They, in fact, demonstrate the opposite.
No, indeed.
So,
indeed. And Sam, the last point I just wanted to make is that there's a real irony about the way that they are trying to get your case thrown out, because they're saying, oh, we shouldn't litigate. We shouldn't litigate against every public smear in the court of law. Sam, that's what they have been doing against the British press for years. So aren't you now just giving Harry and Meghan a taste of their own medicine?
Well, as we see, they've largely shaped social perception by paying PR, which includes a whole host of journalists. But seemingly they only like what the journalists say when it's in their favor, and when it's not, they become litigious. We've seen the lawsuits. So, that's a horrible hypocrisy. And I think with me, what I'm going through, I think they take a huge license to defame and disparage other people, but they don't want anyone even using a distant resemblance or likeness of them or making jokes about them. Excuse me, but I never got the memo that God died and that they became God and they suddenly had a copyright on all things comedy, or a woman who has black hair and a man who has red hair. The woman happens to be, and she's not a princess. So I think the writers were very funny to say this is a Canadian princess. Clearly, I don't think they can claim a copyright on the likenesses, albeit distant, that are here. It's just so arrogant, in my opinion. good luck with that in court. I don't think it'll fly. I don't think that can win. That's not, first of all, that's not defamation. That's not a misstatement of fact that's malicious and demonstrably false. It's a cartoon. Cartoons and comedians have been making fun of people for, forever.
Indeed. Well, look, Samantha Markle, we follow your case with interest. We are keeping across it. Good luck.
Thank you so much, Dan. Thank you.
Now, coming up in Uncancelled, sticking with this, does Prince Harry deserve the British taxpayer to be funding his fight for police protection, having already cost £300,000? And does Prince Andrew's annual grant is slashed as King Charles quietly squeezing his brother out of royal privileges? Top royal author Tom Bower gives his expert analysis at 10:40. But first, in the media buzz, did Lancashire Police let down the public with the disastrous search for Nicola Bulley? And do Kay Burley and Sly News deserve the criticism they are facing for their sinister coverage of the case? My superstar panel return to tackle those big questions straight after the break.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online, across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akue, Saturday and Sunday afternoons on GB News. Expect fiery debate and passionate discussion as me and my panel tackle some of the biggest topics hitting the headlines. It's a place for everyone's opinion. No one gets cancelled, but no one gets an easy ride.
Oh, she's on it today!
Be ready for conversations that are fierce, frank, and of course, fun. Every Saturday and Sunday afternoon from 4 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. We're going to be here for you, our GB News family, to keep you up to date, but also make you smile.
The guy went from puberty to adultery.
And I can't wait to bring a few of my own opinions.
I have no time for cultural totalitarianism.
We'll engage in passionate, but always polite debate, with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
It's something that you would never want anyone to suffer.
I didn't know what channels there were. B, I didn't think I'd be believed.
I must have weighed about 7 stone and I'm 5'8".
My instincts was to sort of cover this up. I mean, clearly that was a mistake.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere.
Amazing. You see, amazing.
You remind me of me in the European Parliament. But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel.
Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful.
Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
Let's return to tomorrow's news site now in our media buzz. First front pages here, the Eye quotes Rishi Sunak, who has warned Rebel Tory MPs to resign if you want to over the Northern Ireland Brexit deal. Despite her intervention, sources believe Home Secretary Suella Braverman will not quit if Sunak ditches the Northern Ireland Protocol bill. And the Daily Express warns supermarkets' rationing of fruit and veg will last for weeks after storms in Spain and North Africa prevented supply. My superstar panel back now. Top Daily Mail columnist Amanda Patel, the England football legend and social commentator Matt Le Tissier, and the author and journalist Rebecca Reed. Now, yesterday, the police confirmed they had discovered the body of Nicola Bulley, bringing a tragic end to one of the most high-profile investigations in recent times. In a statement written by Nicola's family, they exposed the shocking and intrusive behaviour of certain sections of the media.
Tried last night to take in what we have been told in the day, only to have Sky News and ITV making contact with us directly when we expressly asked for privacy. It is shameful they have acted in this way. Leave us alone now.
Now, Sky News had already come under criticism for their insensitive coverage of the case after sending star presenter Kay Burley to St Michael's on Wye, the scene of Nicola's disappearance, to play armchair detective. Many viewers were left shocked at a tactless series of broadcasts, including the inconceivable decision for Burley to present from a graveyard yesterday after police confirmed they had found a body. Look.
Lancashire Police deserve to be criticised over their handling of the Nicola Bulley case so far.
So what's striking me at the moment is that she had quite a lick on. So, you know, she wasn't sauntering. She wasn't like, alone with her thoughts. She was properly moving. So she's walking, it's slippy. It would have been slippy when she was here.
She was in wellies as well.
Yeah, which would have been tricky to walk in.
So you actually saw the phone, is that right? And that was around, was it after 9:30?
I gave a full statement to the police with the exact time.
A big question mark for police because they've been trying to get as much footage from cars that have been passing through, just in case Nicola, off the off chance, came back up the path.
But it's not just the media coming under fire, it's the Lancashire Police too. And our very own Amanda Patel caused a Twitter storm for this post about Detective Superintendent Rebecca Smith at last week's press conference. Amanda wrote, "Skin-tight navy dress, stilettos, poker-straightened hair, whatever happened to a cop uniform? Or is she auditioning for Love Island for midlifers? Show some respect for a missing mother." So, Amanda, obviously that prompted a national debate about whether it's acceptable to comment on an outfit of a senior female police officer. But I believe you stand by those comments.
No, Dan, I have one apology to make immediately. She was not wearing stilettos. They were high-heeled, chunky shoes. So I got that wrong, and my apologies to her for that. I completely stand by it. The point that I was making was that this was an investigation into a missing mother of two, and I expect, other people may not, for cops to turn up at these really serious briefings wearing police uniforms, not dresses like that. And I thought it was deeply disrespectful to Nicola, and I said it. And a lot of people agree with you.
And a lot of people
don't agree.
Furiously disagrees.
Yeah, I think a lot of people disagreed. And I didn't, because you are my colleague and my friend, I decided not to go in on Twitter, but I was so cross with you and so disappointed because what a woman wears should be the one thing that wasn't bad about this investigation, and all that other stuff was shocking. The one thing that wasn't a problem was the dress that woman wore to do her job. Why on earth does it matter what she's wearing? It's so incredibly unimportant, and it obscures the conversation about policing, which is really, really important.
It is not important. It's about
so
policing,
unimportant.
and it's about authority, and it's about respect.
But why is a woman unauthoritative if she's wearing a dress?
Because she is, you know, if I turned up in a bathing suit tonight, you think, well, you lose a lot of viewers, but you would think that was deeply inappropriate. I've just got to say, I'm sick to death of women like you, Rebecca, whom I like and am incredibly fond of. I'm sick to death of you lecturing women like me, who've gone through the fire for people like you to come and have your views
and women before you, and women before you, and women of my generation.
And for you to come and say, "Oh, you're a woman," so you don't have the right to comment on another woman's clothes. I was not commenting on her clothes as such. I was commenting.
Don't speak over
I was commenting on what she was wearing in a really serious investigation. She is the detective superintendent. And she turns up dressed like that, and
it was catty and distracting.
It was not catty.
It was catty and
Take
distracting.
that back.
It was.
Take that back.
And it was fundamentally distracting to a much more important conversation about the disgraceful way that this was handled. That is also, if we were going to have a conversation about her dress, which I wish we weren't having, that is a perfectly reasonable office dress. People wear things like that to the office every single day.
She was not in the office. She was heading.
I think people would be shocked if a male police officer turned up in a wife-beater, Matt Letizia.
I think they possibly would.
I'm a little horrified that you just called a vest a wife-beater. Let's not do that anymore.
Oh,
That's trivialising domestic violence.
I've just been slapped down by the woke police, OK? Matt, I'm not going to apologise.
Is there a dress code that wouldn't be acceptable? Or are you saying she can wear anything she wants? Or is it just that dress is not acceptable?
I deeply don't care what she wore. So to me personally, I don't care if she wore jeans. I really don't. I don't think it's important. Lots of offices do have dress codes.
It's not an office. It's a missing persons investigation, suspected murder.
Why does it matter?
Of course it matters.
Why does it matter?
And if you don't get it, and to call...
seriousness of the investigation,
Matt.
I think probably warrants something a bit more serious.
Can we also talk about what Sky News got up to over the past few days? Because I'm going to be very clear about this yet again, because I know some people say it's ironic, someone like me, talking about this. But I made a very specific decision.
You never even covered the story.
No, I made a very specific decision, Matt, to not cover this story until last Thursday, when I think the Lancashire Police proved that they had completely botched the investigation once they released all of this personal, private
That was
information.
disgusting.
And who released it?
That was disgusting.
Detective Superintendent.
And let's get cross
Rebecca
about
Smith.
that. Let's get cross about that. That's important. That matters. That's important.
You are so naive in the world if you think that doesn't matter.
But
you are so naive.
OK, but I just want to talk about the media coverage, because obviously the family complained about it. I did think there was a bit of an irony, though, Matt, because, of course, the police read out the statement criticising the media. There's been no criticism from the family of the police, who also did a very bad job and went against the family's wishes by releasing all the information about Bully.
It's all a bit complicated, I think, when the police are reading out that statement. I believe the mainstream media are abhorrent in the way that they go about their business, especially in cases like this. That stuff with Kay Burley was disgusting, absolutely disgusting. So that should never have happened. In that statement, I believe that there should have been criticism of the police as well. However, the family are probably privy to a lot more information than we are. We may not know about some of the stuff that they do, which may explain why the police behaved in the way that they did. That's
I think
what
also
I would say.
they're a grieving family. Like, for us to be tone policing their statement feels really uncomfortable. Like, they get to say what the family gets to say whatever statement they want.
Yeah,
the Kay Burley stuff, I'm with you, was absolutely abhorrent. I was shocked by that.
I'm not.
Yeah, can I just make a final point on this?
Please.
The final point is, I really think it matters what you were in these cases when you're a senior police officer. And Rebecca Smith, the detective superintendent, she was the one who said that Nicola was at high risk. This was after my comment. She was the one who disclosed the information about Nicola, now tragically dead, that will fit all that information about the things that we know about. I'm not even going to repeat them now.
Her reputation was now sullied.
And she was not invited to read out the family statement. What is that about?
Maybe they were worried about what she'd wear if she did it.
No, maybe they're just worried about people like you who don't have respect.
Who do I not have respect for?
Who does she not have respect for?
I mean,
don't push me.
Lots of people.
Do not push me.
OK, now look, let's move on. Living up to their reputation, the biased BBC have apologised to J.K. Rowling for the second time in less than a month after she was accused on air of having transphobic views. BBC Radio Scotland guest Carrie Marshall said this about the trans lobby's boycott of the much-anticipated Harry Potter video game, Hogwarts Legacy.
There's money that people believe very strongly is going to be used to fund the anti-trans movement, which, for example, has got more than 300 anti-trans laws in front of US legislators. It's become a real battleground in Britain as well. So this is having a measurable effect on trans people's lives and potentially their safety too.
To no one's surprise, there was not a peep from the presenter, so the Beeb was forced into issuing another grovelling apology. When are they going to learn? When will the British Bashing Corporation learn? This is what they said. We accept the programme failed to challenge these claims and acknowledge that our contributors gave their opinion as fact. This fell below the rigorous editorial standards we've applied to our broad coverage of trans and gender recognition stories across BBC Scotland's news and current affairs output, and we apologise for that. But I'm afraid that yet another "we're sorry" statement doesn't make the ongoing bias, especially against J.K. Rowling, who the BBC just seem to have an intrinsic hatred for, it doesn't make it any better. And I'm really fed up with it. Rebecca Reid, Matt Letizia, Amanda Patel, do stand by, because coming up, should Suella Braverman walk if Rishi Sunak fails to stand up to the EU over Northern Ireland and Brexit? We're going to discuss that as we reveal today's greatest Britain and Union jackass in just a few minutes' time. But next, in Uncancelled, does Prince Harry deserve his fight for gun-wielding security to be funded by the British taxpayer? And with Prince Andrew's annual grant to be slashed, is the disgraced Duke being quietly phased out of his last royal privileges? Top royal biographer, the author of Revenge, Meghan, Harry and the War Between the Windsors, Tom Bower, live in the studio in just 2 minutes' time.
First and foremost, I'm a GB News fan, and I was before I was working here. Just love the fact that we're asking the questions that a lot of establishment media won't ask.
With a bit of a twist, we not only want to inform you, but we want to keep you entertained.
It's worth the drive, because you get in and the team's all ready and waiting, they're itching to go, and it's a proper little family.
GB News is the People's Channel.
It's the audience that makes the programme sing.
We're giving our viewers and our listeners a voice. I see the thousands of your letters, tweets, emails, you name it, coming in.
Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it?
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent you.
It's time for something different. It's time for GB News. I'm very patriotic. I believe in Britain. Our best days lie ahead.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Join us here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere.
Amazing. You see, amazing.
You remind me of me in the European Parliament.
But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel.
Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful.
Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates. Do you not believe in prison?
I don't believe in prison.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed. So I guess they've always been quite woke. That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel. It's time now for Uncancelled. And this is where Britain's top commentators speak out on controversial issues without the fear of the cancel culture sweeping the rest of the media. And the Sun newspaper's revelation of Prince Harry's £300,000 strop at not getting his own gun-toting cops at the coronation has been causing shockwaves, with people adamant the greedy Duke of Montecito pay for his own private security. Since running away from his royal duties, security has been a major issue for Harry, except, of course, when he's bragging about killing 25 members of the Taliban in his toxic tell-all. Well, top royal author Tom Bower joins me now. Tom, this has cost us, in the middle of a cost of living crisis, £300,000. Is it not time for King Charles to actually step in and somehow end this madness?
I think it is, but I mean, his problem is that he is a weak man in a way, and he's worried about Harry.
The king.
I fear so. I mean, if only he'd said to Harry, look, come to the coronation, but you can have row Q, seat 54, and the view is partly obscured by a column, then the message would get through.
I mean, you need to worry about him coming.
But I think if he allows Harry to come to the coronation, it's going to ruin the coronation. It'll be overshadowed by Harry's presence and, God forbid, Meghan's too. So I think Charles has to make a decision now. The king has to decide. And I think that people are on the whole getting sick to death of Harry. I mean, although I think he got some sympathy with some women from his book, The Poor Boy and Diana and all the rest of it. It was all very carefully calibrated to make people feel sad for this poor child. I think his behaviour now is going to irritate people again, and people will be sick to death of him, hopefully, very soon.
I think so, especially when we know that this is costing us money.
It's costing us money, and it's all just for show, because, he doesn't need...
pay for it?
Well, not only can he pay for it, but he was protected when he was in England. There is no issue. He's just looking for issues, and his lawyers are looking for fees.
Well, he's a perma victim. At South Park...
Brilliantly. Couldn't have been done better.
No, they got it right, didn't they? Look, I do want to talk about Prince Andrew, too, though, because he's reportedly furious with King Charles after having his nearly £250,000 a year grant slashed amid rumours he could be forced out of his £30 million home by December. But is he really being squeezed out of his current lifestyle, or is this just the slimmed-down monarchy that King Charles actually always promised?
Well, I think Andrew's playing with fire. Again, the problem with Andrew is he wants to get back into the public limelight. He thinks he's innocent, and I believe he thinks that this dripping of "I'm such a terrible victim" to the media will get him the sort of sympathy which he thought he was going to get from the Newsnight interview. He, egged on no doubt by his ex-wife and a couple of PR people who should know better, really believes that if he pleads that he's going to be kicked out of his 78-room home and not have any money, that people will say, "Oh, poor Andrew."
But isn't he dangerous, though, Tom, because he does have nothing to lose now?
Well, he has a lot to lose in the sense that he could actually be completely ostracised. At least he's going to be allowed to live in some genteel obscurity. But he's playing for... He doesn't want that. He wants to get right back. And what he doesn't realise is he can't take on Geoffrey, Virginia Roberts again. He'll be destroyed in court. He'll be destroyed if he tries to undo the settlement. He doesn't realise that he really is finished. He doesn't want to accept that. But, the sums don't add up. How on earth did he afford this house in chalet in Switzerland? How on earth did Fergie afford this house in central London? It's all a bit odd, the finances. And what's even worse is he doesn't learn his lessons. No. Andrew is somebody who really is so stupid, so conceited, so arrogant that he just will never learn that he now has blown it and should shut up.
Well, no, indeed, because for the last 3 years, he could have been toiling away in the background, doing charity work, just like his mother, the late Queen, recommended. That's not where he's at. That's not where his head is at, is it?
And sadly, his brother, the King, doesn't tell him what to do and that he should now buckle down and go away.
Tom Bowell, the author of Revenge. Yes. Thank you so much, Tom. But it's time now to reveal tonight's Greatest Britain and Union Jackass. My superstar panel return. Amanda Patel, who's your nominee for tonight's Greatest Britain?
Mine is Suella Braverman for calling out Rishi on his dithering over the Northern Ireland Agreement, where he's clearly trying to make deals with the EU, and you can't trust a man who backstabbed Boris, who's now going to try and backstab Brexit.
Matt Le Tissier, your nominee.
My nominee is Kate Forbes, MSP, for her honesty and letting everybody know what her policies are and letting them have a chance to vote because of that. She's just being honest.
Rebecca Reid, your nominee.
Mine is, it's a ridiculous thing to do, but Sadiq Khan. I'm generally not a fan, but I do think that free school meals for all children in London is a really exciting and important policy.
Yeah, ridiculous because, of course, there's zero chance he's going to win. I'm going to go with Amanda Superwoman Suella, although reports that she will not resign over the Northern Ireland Protocol tonight.
Yeah, she says that now.
Let's see. Who's your Union Jackass, Amanda Patel?
I'm afraid it's that lefty lovey Emma Thompson, who has revealed now when she didn't win the Best Actress for that risible See You Later, Leo Grande or whatever it was called. She said winning her Oscars made her physically ill. Well, I'm really pleased for her because she's not even nominated this time, so her health will be fine.
Don't worry about it, Emmy. You're going to be fine. Ridiculous, isn't it? Please, they're all ridiculous. Matt Le Tissier, your Union Jackass nominee.
My Union Jackass is Kay Burley, the ghoul of Sly News, for her reporting on Nicola Bulley.
Yeah, and we obviously showed some of that earlier in the show. Rebecca Reid, your nominee.
Mine's Kate Forbes, because why not have her in here twice? I found the views that she expressed abhorrent, and I also think it was a very bad political move, and so I don't respect her as a career woman or as a thinker.
So you don't respect her being honest about what she thinks? Because
No, it was
I think
stupid
it's much
and
better
rude.
that our politicians are honest during the campaign trail so that the members of the party can make an honest judgment on them, which is not what we got from Keir Starmer. When
Yeah, but I'm still allowed, like a lot of people, to believe that the things she was honest about were incredibly unpleasant.
OK. Oh, well, look, we need a bit of fun. We need a bit of fun tonight. So it's the double win for Amanda Patel this week. Because I have to say, I couldn't believe Emma Thompson boring on about how winning an Oscar made her sick. Can you just bore off? And actually, no one watches the BAFTAs anymore, right? Because we cannot stand a bunch of conceited Hollywood morons in one room telling us what to think. And their movies are really rubbish now too, because they've gone so woke. Amanda Patel, Matt Letizia, Rebecca Reed, my superstar panel, thank you so much. I'm back again tomorrow night from 9 p.m. Thank you for your company. Remember, Headliners is up next. Have a very good night.
First and foremost, I am a GB News fan, and I was before I was working here. Just love the fact that we're asking the questions that a lot of establishment media won't ask.
With a bit of a twist, we not only want to inform you, but we want to keep you entertained.
It's worth the drive because you get in and the team's all ready and waiting, they're itching to go, and it's a proper little family.
GB News is the People's Channel.
It's the audience that makes the programme sing.
We're giving our viewers and our listeners a voice. I see the thousands of your letters, tweets, emails, you name it, coming in.
Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it?
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent you.
It's time for something different. It's time for GB News. I'm very patriotic. I believe in Britain. Our best days lie ahead.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Join us here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my two comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Here on GB News Live, we'll be keeping you in the picture, finding out what's happening across the country and finding out why it matters to you. We'll have the facts fast with our team of reporters and specialist correspondents. Wherever it's happening, we'll be there from 12 noon on TV, radio and online. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michael Portillo. Join me on GB News on a Sunday morning for topical discussion, debate, arts and culture, and sometimes even some ethical dilemmas.
I don't always agree with you, Michael.
Michael Portillo, Sundays on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
You're an inspiration to us all.
Clip that bit off.
Well, you are.
That's my ringtone. My political ambitions those days are gone, I can tell you. She's only teasing. Go on. He's probably going to want to lay down now. I'll give him 2 minutes to have one. Let's respectfully disagree. That's what we like on Jubes and Kerr. Come and join us. GB News, the People's Channel.
Michelle Dewberry, weekday evenings at 6 o'clock.
I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m.
What's the scoop?
I'll be joined by 2 of the country's top comedians.
That's right.
As we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight.
We're going to get into trouble.
If it's a big story, we'll be covering it.
Spill some tea on him.
There we go.
But we'll also have some fun.
I wouldn't stick up a bank.
My father didn't love me.
So anyway.
Headliners every night from 11 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akue, Saturday and Sunday afternoons on GB News. Expect fiery debate and passionate discussion as me and my panel tackle some of the biggest topics hitting the headlines. It's a place for everyone's opinion. No one gets cancelled, but no one gets an easy ride.
Oh, she's on it today!
Be ready for conversations that are fierce, frank, and of course, fun. Every Saturday and Sunday afternoon from 4 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel.
It's 11 o'clock. You're with the People's Channel, GB News. And in a moment, headliners. But first, let's bring you up to date with the latest news headlines. And the US president said today the United States is going to be announcing new sanctions against Russia this week. President Joe Biden was speaking to thousands who gathered in the centre of Warsaw in Poland, telling the crowds the Ukrainian people's love of their country will prevail in the war against Russia. It follows talks held this afternoon with the president of Poland, a day after his surprise visit to Ukraine. The two leaders addressed security issues and growing NATO's presence in Poland.
The West was not plotting to attack Russia, as Putin said today. And millions of Russian citizens who only want to live in peace with their neighbors are not the enemy. This war is never a necessity. It's a tragedy.
Well, Russia has issued a warning to the West by suspending its participation in its nuclear arms treaty with the United States. Vladimir Putin making the announcement during a major speech on the war in Ukraine, where he also accused the West of trying to acquire limitless power.
Russia does not abandon the treaty, but suspends its participation. Before resuming the discussion of this treaty, we must first understand what do such countries of NATO, like France and Great Britain, aspire to do, and how will we take their strategic arsenals into account.
Here, government departments have recommended that NHS workers, police officers and teachers get a 3.5% pay rise in new submissions put forward to the independent pay review body. That's well below the average pay demand of around 10%. And that comes as nurses announced a pause on next week's planned strike action, saying they've entered intensive talks now with the government on pay. The Royal College of Nursing talks with the Health Secretary Steve Barclay start in earnest tomorrow. Nurses were set to walk out on March the 1st for 48 hours in their long-running dispute over jobs, pay and conditions. And the Chancellor is under pressure to improve public sector pay rises for workers after official figures showed state finances are stronger than predicted. The Office for National Statistics revealed the government reported a monthly surplus of £5.4 billion in January. The surprising number is mainly because of self-assessment income tax. But Jeremy Hunt, who's due to set out his plans for tax and spending in the budget on March the 15th, played down the significance of a surplus. Consumer News and supermarkets are going to be rationing a growing list of fruits and vegetables. Asda is allowing customers a maximum of just 3 items from a list of 8, including tomatoes, broccoli and raspberries. Morrison's will follow suit from Wednesday. Bad weather across Europe and Africa is being blamed for the disruption in supply chains, with retailers warning it could last for weeks. Those are your latest news headlines. Now headliners.
Hello, I'm Simon Evans. Welcome to Headliners. Joining me tonight to take you through Tuesday's top stories, we have the scoliotic... No, we don't. Scoliotic backbones. That's from last night. You can't all be scoliotic backbones.
I put something under about us being bald.
Yeah.
I genuinely don't know how
Scoliotic backbones was you and Leo, wasn't it?
Yeah. This is all about...
What's a scoliotic? I don't know what scoliotic
well, it's a sort of
means.
disfigured spine, Roger, and I'm not willing to see you libelled in that manner, frankly, or slandered, whichever it is.
My corner in that way.
Anyway, listen, we have a couple of comedians here, and they're willing to do their stint, even if those who are operating the teleprompter aren't. So let's have a look at tomorrow's front pages. We start with the Daily Mail, I believe, and your lust for land and power will fail. That is Biden in Dune mode they're addressing. Putin, Telegraph public sector to be offered 3.5% raise. That is unlikely, I suspect, to be an adequate offer. The iPaper, resign if you want to, Sunak tells ministers as he calls Tory rebels bluff on Brexit deal. We have The Guardian with nurses pause strike action to enter intensive pay talks. And The Times has Putin signals the return of Cold War nuclear tests. Picture of David Hockney there in a pair of extraordinarily unattractive plastic sandals. What are they called? Crocs. I've seen those for a while. And finally, the Daily Star. Now farmers warn of spud and lettuce crisis. The thin end of the veg. Ho, ho. Those were your front pages. Let's take a look at them in some more detail. So let us kick off with the Times, Josh, and that picture of David Hockney, but that's probably not the most alarming news.
Well, I don't know. Nuclear war, Crocs. I mean, they're
Crocs
the end,
on a grown man.
They're both the end of civilization, arguably. So
he looks like Toad of Toe Hall, doesn't he?
Maybe he's just thinking, if I'm about to be fried anyway, I may as well, I may as well transgress the last few. He's done most of them.
But he's got all that beautiful effort. He's got a lovely little cane there. He's got a lovely suit and scarf and everything.
He has gone very synthetic, though. I actually went to an exhibition of his about 3 or 4 years ago, maybe longer. I don't know, Times Fly Royal Academy, and it was all done on iPad. He'd created loads of images using sort of iPads and stuff.
Yes.
I was a bit disappointed, to be honest. That's a nice way for kids to, create some art when you haven't got access to
when you're
materials.
4, yes.
Yeah.
But mind you, he's very, very old, isn't he? So
maybe he finds it easier these days.
Paintbrushes are heavy.
Yes. Anyway, let's get on with the Cold War.
Let's do the nuclear war stuff. So Putin signals the return of Cold War nuclear tests. He's basically... This is a slightly strange thing. So there's a thing called START, the Nuclear Arms Treaty. Yes. He's saying he's going to suspend Russia's participation in it, but he's not going to withdraw from it. So it's hard to understand. Essentially,
moratorium.
Yeah, exactly. But really what it is... Already they're meant to, be examining each other's nuclear stockpiles and whatnot. That hasn't happened since 2020 because of COVID.
And that's what START was. Was it included?
It was part of
inspection?
it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. OK.
So they haven't done that. But the other thing is that he's basically saying if America does any nuclear testing, then Russia's going to do some nuclear testing.
Yeah, OK.
So